Hi, so here is some feedback on an attempt at answering part one of the Cambridge Proficiency Writing Exam. This is the part that deals with um, an essay which summarizes two texts and then presents the author's opinion or ideas on the issues mentioned in the texts. Okay, so the first deals with behavioral change in society and attitudes towards such change. This is an excellent technique to read the texts, and this author has used two different highlighters to indicate or emphasize what the main points of the texts are. Nowadays, in some cultures, there may often be confusion between generations about what is acceptable behavior in certain situations. Older people sometimes complain, for example, about the real or imagined rudeness of others, such as in the use of electronic devices in public places. However, the younger generation do not regard electronic communication as intrusive, but rather as fundamental to their way of life. Only increased mutual understanding is likely to resolve potential conflict or confusion in any society. In this case, as in all others, it pays to be aware of other people's points of view. Okay, so the author has indeed highlighted and underlined some of the main ideas of the text. And then the second text reads, "Follow my leader. Should we always aim to do what society expects of us? No. What society needs is individuality. Worrying about what other people think inhibits enthusiasm and creativity. Nothing new is ever achieved by conforming to expected social norms. This is not only true for society's innovators, everybody needs a strong sense of their own worth as an individual. This is essential for psychological well being and the ability to function effectively in one's personal and professional life. Paying too much attention to society's conventions can be counterproductive in these and other ways." So essentially, these two texts are dealing with the same theme, that is, behavior within society and people's response to it. But they have a slightly, let's say, conflicting or contrasting opinion. In this part, the first text deals with the fact that there's a conflict between the older and the younger generation, especially in regards to electronic communication. And the only way that we can resolve this or effectively deal with such conflict is to be aware of and try to understand other people's viewpoint. The second text, however, has a slightly different idea, which is that we need to be individuals. We can't conform to expected social norms. We need to be innovative and have a strong sense of confidence in our own value as individuals. Um, in fact, paying too much attention to the conventions of society can be counterproductive. Okay, so now writing an essay of roughly 260 words. Okay, the author has written acceptable behavior in society. Nice. Giving the piece a title is indeed wise. Both texts discuss the topic. I'm not sure I would use the word discuss. Both texts deal with, or let's go with deal with, the topic of acceptable behavior within society. This essay aims to summarize and evaluate the conventions of society and the behavioral differences between generations. Okay, a nice, well-organized introduction. The first text focuses on how different generations respond to certain situations. The text states that the use of electronic devices is often perceived by older people as offensive, whilst the younger generation has a different, here I would use a different word, not dissent, but has a different take on this, has a different response, a different opinion, outlook when it comes to technology. Dissent is not quite the right word here. One could indeed write, the younger generation might dissent, that is, disagree or argue when it comes to technology. And actually, this is a good thing. Combining these sentences with the use of a linker would be wise. And in that case, one would use a comma and then the lowercase whilst to create a nice linker within this sentence, a main clause and a subclause. It is also said that the use of electronic devices is perceived by the younger generation as a way of life. One could actually write that more succinctly or more accurately. It is also said that let's say, prevailing use or the predominant use of electronic devices um, is perceived by the younger generation as a crucial part of life, or as because here it mentions fundamental, I think, a fundamental to their way of life. Well, we could sort of paraphrase that in different wording by saying the use of electronic devices is perceived by the younger generation as a vital or essential part of life. This response or this dependence on technology has resulted in an now here, of course, if you use the word appalling reaction, you have to use an appalling reaction, but I'm not sure appalling is quite the right word here. This let's say overuse or overdependence on technology has resulted in a strong reaction on the part of um, the older generation. And let's say a strong negative reaction, because again, I think that's what the author is trying to convey here, that it's a negative reaction on the part of the older generation. The text also states that a mutual understanding of each other's, and here you need an apostrophe S, of each other's or one another's outlook, perception, may lead to a resolution of conflict and confusion within society. I would use a noun form here. May lead to the resolution of conflict and confusion within society. Moreover, it is of the essence to be aware of older people's apostrophe S opinion, no matter what their, T-H-E-I-R, possessive there, no matter what their social background or the year they were born in, or the year they were born, full stop. This is a bit extra. There's some nice vocabulary in here. Moreover, it is of the essence that one is aware of, or something like that. The second text deals with the importance of individuality within society. The main concern here, that's nice vocabulary, is that people tend to conform to, again, nice phrasal verb there, conform to the expectations of society. And then here you could combine sentences. The main concern here is that people tend to conform to the expectations of society, comma, which often leads to individuals losing, with one O, right, losing their creativity, or which often leads to individuals sacrificing their creativity, their oh goodness, we don't want to use the word individuality again, but I'm not sure creativity is quite the right word, which often leads to, one could just instead rephrase, leads to people losing their own individuality. It is said that every human being, with a G, being, has a strong sense of self-worth. However, people lose this sense of self-worth due to the conventions of society. I might add another word here, something like lose this sense of worth due to the restrictive conventions of society. The text also makes a point about psychological well-being. And here I think we're saying psychological well-being in general, so I would get rid of the definite article. psychological well-being, and one's ability to behave responsibly in certain situations. It is also said, we've used that before. It is said that. It is also said, and it's also used up here. It is also said, perhaps another phrase might be, the text also mentions, or it is also stated that, or the text also claims that the conventions of society can make it difficult for individuals to function effectively. Okay, function may not be quite the right word there, but let's stick with it. Okay, to function effectively. To sum up, focusing too much on society's conventions can hinder the productivity of an individual person. That being said, I don't think, it might be better to not to contract this. I do not believe, I strongly disagree that it can prevent us from being proactive in the same way as electronic devices do. That's a bit of a confusing sentence. Okay, that being said, I do not believe it can prevent us. And here, what do we mean by it? I think the author means society's conventions. I do not believe these rules, these conventions, these social norms can prevent us from being proactive in the same way as electronic devices do or might. In my opinion, electronic devices, and here we have a plural noun, so we need the plural form of the verb. Electronic devices have caused the younger generation to behave unacceptably. It's an adverb that agrees with the verb, to behave unacceptably in certain situations. I wholeheartedly believe, this is lovely, wholeheartedly, and then here you could use agree, because if we've used believe or agree up here, then we vary the vocabulary. I wholeheartedly concur, believe, that electronic devices have put a tremendous strain on the way people behave in today's society. And concur might not be the right word. That means agree, or I wholeheartedly maintain that. And a tremendous strain on is also lovely vocabulary. So if we look at the text as a whole, okay, overall, in terms of organization, it is well organized. I would give a good number of points for that. There are some lovely turns of phrase. However, there are also some confusing errors that are distracting. In terms of actually answering the question, well, the author has done that effectively. So full points in that regard. And in terms of tone of voice, or what's referred to as communicative achievement, this would also receive at least 3 out of 5 points, except for the one bit where the person sort of slips into a bit of slang. In general, the level of formality here is appropriate to the task and matches that of the original texts. So all in all, this is a good attempt at the task. I hope the feedback has been helpful.